to Kaylee Daily, the podcast about doula tips and tits. I'm Kaylee Harrod, your host, and also doula, childbirth educator, and the creator of the Birth Prep Blueprint, which is comprehensive, holistic childbirth education, entirely online, so you can do it at your own pace. And it is modules, so you can revisit them. So, I'm also a mom of 3. My oldest is 11. My kids are 11, 10, and 8. So I've been at this for a little bit. My youngest loves babies and doula work. And also loves to pop into things. So I'm kind of surprised she hasn't been in one of these episodes yet. I am talking today about childbirth education. So the question is, do I need to take a childbirth class? Maybe you have this question and you've been thinking like, maybe I don't need to take a childbirth class because I'll just like rely on my provider and the nurse to tell me what to do in the midst of childbirth, right? So let me tell you, first of all, spoken in the kindest possible way, you are wrong. If that's what you think, you're wrong. You do, in fact, need a childbirth class. The reason that you need a childbirth class, well, there are a few. There are a few reasons. So just like the birth plan episode, I'm not only going to answer the question, do you need a childbirth class or do I need a childbirth class? Because the answer to that is just yes. And so I want to dig in a little bit more to why you need a childbirth class and what you should be looking for in a childbirth class, okay? So first of all, why do you need a childbirth class? One reason, I think, is that you should be informed about what's happening to you and in your body, right? Labor is not something that's external. If you're the person who's pregnant, it is what's happening in your very own body. And understanding why it's happening, what exactly is happening, and how it's progressing can actually lower fear significantly, which is hugely helpful for navigating the process of birth, okay? The other thing is that if you are thinking, I don't need a childbirth class because I'm going to rely on my doctor or the nurse to tell me what to do and what's happening. Well, especially now, I say doctor and nurse because I mostly hear that from people who are giving birth in a hospital. Very few people who are giving birth at their home or in a birth center think they don't need a childbirth class because most of them are preparing for a different kind of labor experience, right? So if you're giving birth in a hospital and your thought process is, I will let my provider or the nurse tell me what to do, when to do it, what's going on, right? Then I want to have you think about a few things. First of all, that leaves out any kind of prenatal anxiety or angst or even aches and pains. Honestly, on a very regular basis, I hear people say, oh, I had this pain in pregnancy and I told my doctor about it. My doctor was like, it's normal, you're pregnant. And that's it. And it kind of makes me sad because there's a lot that you can do about most pain in pregnancy. And I don't want anyone to have pain and not have some relief from that pain. So that's one thing. You're lacking some of the prenatal information that you would get from a childbirth education class, okay? The second thing is that a big part of your labor is prior to arriving to the hospital if you go into labor naturally. And what I mean by that is you just go into labor, right? There's 3 different ways to sort of initiate birth. One is a planned C-section. One is a planned induction where you go into the hospital and they give you medication to start your labor process. If you don't know what that means, check out my class. I have a whole section on it. And the other is called spontaneous labor, meaning that your body went into labor, right? If you go into spontaneous labor, I do not know one single hospital that has you come in the second you start contracting, right? Most hospitals have a threshold at which they will admit you in cervical dilation, meaning that you can't be admitted to the hospital until you're 3 or 4 centimeters dilated. If you've ever heard of someone being in labor going to the hospital and it being too early and getting sent back home, that's what that means. They haven't met that threshold to be admitted, okay? So what that also means is, let's say you go into labor, call your OB or your provider and you say, okay, I'm in labor. Oh my gosh, I'm going to have the baby. They're probably going to be like, awesome, great. Okay, at this point, whatever that point is, right? They're going to give you some kind of metric or something to follow that's like, at this time, I want you to come in. Well, then what do you do until that time, right? They're not going to come over and guide you through that process. They're not going to give you suggestions on what to do next in most cases. They're usually going to be like, awesome, wonderful, great, okay, awesome, good, wonderful. We're so happy that you're in labor. Come in when your contractions are this far apart and when you're feeling this, okay? Call us back if you are wondering if it's time to come in. That's it. Now, from that phone call to actually going to the hospital, that could be a whole day sometimes. So if you don't fully understand what's happening in the process of labor, then you have a whole day of potentially wondering what's going on in your body and maybe like being kind of anxious about that, or maybe just not helping the progress of labor happen, right? So that's one part of it. The other part is that there are times in labor that you're at some kind of twist or turn, that there's more than one choice, right? So your provider isn't always going to come in and say, do you want to do this thing? Because this is the thing that we want you to do. I've been at births where a provider says, we have these two options. They're equally safe in our minds. You have to choose which one you want. And then you're just there to make your decision, right? So in that scenario, if you haven't yet learned what these two things are, what do they mean? What are your risk factors for them? What do you think about them? How do you feel about them? Then you may be left in a scenario with a lot of anxiety. And I'll have a whole nother episode on oxytocin and the hormones of stress and fear and all of that, and how it's incredibly unhelpful to birth. But the main thing I want you to take away from this is, as amazing as your provider or nurse team might be, they cannot be the people that are with you 24 hours a day during your labor, right? They're not going to do that. They can't do that. Even once you're in the hospital, they can't do that because their job involves more than just supporting you in your room, right? So then if you come in with a basic understanding of birth, or even ideally a comprehensive understanding of birth, a holistic, robust understanding of birth, then you are going to automatically have a more satisfactory experience because you're not shocked by what's happening to you. You've heard about these things. You understand what they mean when they tell you you're effaced or your station has changed or that your dilation is happening or whatever, right? Because you're going to be like, oh yeah, in class I learned about that. Effacement, 0 to 100%. Got it. Okay? So the short answer is yes, you absolutely need a childbirth class. Every single person needs a childbirth class. I will shout it from the rooftops for the rest of my life. I love my own class, of course, because I'm incredibly biased towards my class because I think it's awesome and I made it. But what I love about it is that it is online. It's made in modules. The reason for that is that I have been teaching 8-hour childbirth classes for a while. I'm not even sure how long, a couple years. Hundreds of families have gone through those classes with me. It is a lot of information to get shoved at you in 8 hours. I had one client say it's like being fed water from a water hose, right? Like it's like being inundated with information. One of the reasons I made my class the way that I did is so that you can take it in small chunks and so that you have access to go back and revisit those topics, any of them. Okay, so any questions you have about it, post them below, drop me a quick message, send me a DM on Instagram, one of those things. Go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss the next episodes that are coming out. And I hope that you have the most informed, well-educated, smooth, beautiful delivery ever. And I will see you in the next episode.